I am the #1 biggest fan of Sandy Cheeks, 4. This is not a joke. Anyway, quickie alert. Oh my god, guys, we're doing it. We're doing it. So I just saw the new Edgar Wright film, The Running Man, and guys, it was bad. It was so bad. I'm sorry. I didn't want it to be this way. Edgar Wright is the acclaimed director of films like Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Baby Driver, lots of really fantastic, memorable, iconic films in his filmography. His previous film, Last Night in Soho from 2021, would be what I consider to be his first dud. And even though there were plenty of people at the time going, "What do you mean? It was good." It just did not connect with me. I gave it a 5 out of 10. Very boring, very forgettable, and I genuinely thought that that would be the worst film he ever makes, but boy, I was wrong. The Running Man stars Glenn Powell as a guy. He's a guy that needs money for his family, and his family is so cute and innocent. He's got like an infant daughter and a wife, and the daughter's sick, and he needs to afford medicine, but they're living in a dystopian capitalist hellhole. So he watches TV, and there's a bunch of different prize shows where people are hurting themselves to try and get money. It's like Mr. Beast stuff. So he applies to go on the show The Running Man, and this is one that is particularly dangerous because it's essentially one where you sign up and you're supposed to survive for 30 days while a bunch of trained killers try to hunt you down. And also everyone else is incentivized to rat you out, so every citizen will gain money if they help the killers kill you. Seems like a bad idea no matter how cocky you are, but the main character, you know, he's the main character. He's got main character syndrome. And even though this concept seems a little flawed, especially in the way that they presented it, it's not destined for failure. Like, there's still plenty you could do with it to make it fun or interesting. But this film just does not give a shit about anything. It doesn't give a shit about its characters. It doesn't give a shit about its universe. It doesn't give a shit about making anything fun or interesting, and it seems like there's implications that it's trying to, but it always fails. There are many attempts at jokes, there are many attempts at being cool, but every one of these attempts feels half-assed and half-hearted. It's kind of sad to say this, but it genuinely doesn't even really feel like an Edgar Wright movie. The style and personality and even competency that we've all gotten used to is not found within this film. There's a scene where it almost feels as though it's trying to capture a similar tone to one of those Hot Fuzz montages that we all remember so fondly, but there's no creative or interesting camera work or transitions or sound effects. It's just a montage, and it's at a moment where it feels like, okay, you're just skipping over some stuff. Like, why is this a montage? This seems like it would have been interesting to show or develop. And this is the case with every aspect of the film. It feels as though things are just glossed over to make room for the next scene. And with a 2-hour and 13-minute runtime, you'd think that means that, oh yeah, this is just jam-packed with a bunch of stuff that they're trying to fit in, and in a sense it is, but somehow by the end of the film it feels as though barely anything has happened. It feels borderline paradoxical. With a long movie that you're rushing through things to fit more things in, it should feel like things have happened by the end of it. It should feel like there were a lot of things, but because nothing gets properly developed or characterized, it's just a bunch of empty, vapid, meaningless nonsense. I'm not even sure Glenn Powell had a firm grasp on what his character was supposed to be over the course of the film, because his performance not only felt awkward, but really inconsistent. Almost every single character in the film felt like they didn't belong there, like none of the actors knew what the characters were supposed to be, because I guess the film didn't either. Nobody seemed quite sure about what tone of movie they were going to be in, and I don't really blame them for that, because the tone of this film is all over the place. The original score for this film was distracting and inappropriate. It did not help any scene that it was in. It more often than not felt conflicting with the tone of what the film was showing. It was often overly serious, and the original soundtrack choices were not that great either. There's an action scene where they play an older rock song to give the impression like, haha, this is fun, this is goofy, almost kind of like, I don't know, Guardians of the Galaxy, or maybe something from Shaun of the Dead, I guess. And it's embarrassing hearing that, because it implies that what you're seeing is supposed to be fun, and it's not. There are many action scenes within this film, and there is not a single one that is fun or clever or interesting at all. And again, this is really sad to say, say, but none of them are even competently shot. The action is clunky and poorly communicated, there are no interesting shots, action movements will often feel awkwardly slow or poorly cheated, and because everything's so rushed, it feels like every action scene is just over before you know it. Like, okay, I guess that was it. Alright, moving on. There are 3 car chase type scenes in this film, and the same thing applies there. Terribly shot. Over before you know it. Nothing happens. And I was honestly shocked because the car chase scenes in Baby Driver are just incredible. One of them feels like the entire thing was just in a green screen. There are many cuts, and within these scenes there are short shots of the vehicle clearly not moving as fast as the film is implying it is. It does not feel cohesive. It does not feel as though these pieces are working together. It feels as though the different pieces of this film are in conflict with each other. The characters in this film feel just as rushed as everything else. They are not properly developed. They are not likable. I was never really rooting for anyone. And there are quite a lot of characters in this film that are technically in the film, but they just don't really do anything with. The other 2 contestants were technically in the film, but the film didn't really do anything with them. It really felt as though there was no good reason for them to be in the film at all. It could have just been the main character. And there's so much you could have done with these characters. There's another reality show in this universe that they keep referencing, and we see clips of it. It's basically a parody of the Kardashians, and they don't really do anything with that either. It's technically there, and there's things you could do with it. But this film isn't curious enough about its own characters or universe to do anything with them. There's a woman who shows up pretty late in the film, and they treat her as though she's like the female lead, basically. From the point that our main character meets her to her deciding to fulfill that role, barely anything has happened. Like, no time has been spent with this character, and it's acting as though we've known her the entire time. The film is asking for us to be on board with its intended premise and emotions, but it doesn't do anything to earn that. So much of this film feels incredibly unearned and forced, and there's no reason why it had to be this way. You had 2 hours and 13 minutes to develop things properly. That's a good amount of time. With a dystopian science fiction universe, I would hope that there's at least some interesting world building, something to chew on and make us feel as though they actually thought about the universe, but it really feels as though they didn't care. They hand us the basic premise without developing the universe much at all, and it's not nearly interesting enough to just be using as a set piece. I was starved for some sense of thought or consideration put into this universe, but the universe just doesn't make that much sense at all, which is not conducive to a film that at many points is at the very least pretending to be some sort of substantive political commentary, and much like every other aspect of this film, the social and political commentary is just surface level and meaningless and derivative. Genuinely feels like it was made by committee. It does not feel like it's coming from a person with things to say. Might as well have been written by ChatGPT, because the lack of genuine interest and curiosity from the filmmakers sticks out like a sore thumb. Every time a character makes a decision, it feels like it comes out of nowhere. Perhaps you could have spent some time developing things to make it seem more natural, like things don't just come out of nowhere for no reason. Perhaps you could have spent maybe even a minute doing this. But nope, this was a big fart. He farted it out. This is a fart type film. There are scenes in this film that are actually laughably bad. The characters are on a plane and they're dramatically arguing with each other. The dialogue is atrocious and all of the emotions feel so fucking unearned and out of nowhere. I was having a chuckle. There was a really funny shot where the main character was fighting a bad guy and the bad guy says, "You want to know who's keeping you from seeing your family again? You." And as he's saying this, he's pushing the main character through a bathroom door and kind of like holding him in place so that he sees himself in the mirror. It's really, really, really fucking stupid. And the way I describe it, you could almost imagine like, oh yeah, maybe there'll be a dramatic insert shot there or something. No, it's just clunky and awkwardly and boringly shot. It's embarrassing. Coleman Domingo's performance was somehow bad. I've generally liked him in other things I've seen him in. I don't know how Edgar Wright got him to act so bad in this. Again, it didn't really seem like he knew what his character was or what movie he was in. Everyone just felt out of place. The only character that felt like they actually belonged in this film was Josh Brolin's character. The scenes with him were almost interesting and he was pretty well cast for the role. There is a child actor that gets introduced after one of the action scenes and hoo boy, they suck. And it might not be their fault. The dialogue they were given was atrocious, but damn, I was cringing pretty hard at their scenes. Thankfully thankfully they weren't in most of the film. There was one action scene that was almost interesting. The main character was in the trunk of the car, and the camera stayed on him with his perspective, and I was like, oh cool, we're gonna have an action scene from this perspective, interesting. But the scene is ruined by the terrible soundtrack and sound design choices. You can hear the child and his dad in the front seats like way too clearly, and even from just the child's voice, the performance was terrible. It was distracting, it was cringe, it was awful. And then the action scene is over before you know it. It's just farted out, it's nothing, it's meaningless, never really felt the stakes of anything throughout the entire film. The editing in this film was so bad that you could tell that it was going to be atrocious from the very first scene. Like, even in scenes with no action and just dialogue, it's really awkwardly shot and edited. There are quick cuts and shots that last for no time at all, for no reason, just this overwhelming feeling of things being rushed and not coordinated and not intentional. There's no confidence to the filmmaking in this film, and it felt like nobody gave a shit. And the lack of effort or creativity even reflects to things as simple as the font choices in this movie. There's a lot of text in a lot of different contexts, and like 70% of it was Bank Gothic font in a variety of contexts that don't make any sense for it all to just be that font. And like 20% of the font was Impact font, and then the other 10% were just fonts that I didn't recognize and weren't really distracting. And this might not be something that many people will notice or care about. I'm pretty sure I have autism. But to any font people out there, this is genuinely the most entertaining part of the movie. Like, the amount of different times and different contexts that Bank Gothic font is shown in this film has to be like over 50. Like, legit, if you want a drinking game and don't care about your health at all, that's a good one. The best thing I can say about this movie is that I wasn't extremely bored per se, but it's mostly because it was just sad. This film is a relentlessly unsatisfying mess, and at this point, I'm not sure if Edgar Wright is going to make a great film ever again, and I'm not sure that he's lost his talent. It might just be that he's not trying anymore, because it genuinely did not seem like his heart was in this at all. Some have speculated that his experience with his Ant-Man project falling through has broken him. Who knows? All we can do is speculate, because this is one of those films that leaves me wondering what the hell happened here. This is a film that starts out bad and gets progressively worse as it goes along. So yeah, I would say skip this movie. It was bad, very disappointing, not compelling, not entertaining, and I'm giving this one a 3 out of 10. If you like this video, drop a like, hit the sub button, leave a comment. You know what to do. Thank you. Cameo.com/ADUM. I hear you're turning 25. You're probably a pedophile. I do birthdays. I do weddings. I do funerals. I do anniversaries. Dear Adam, please roast my husband. I do not love them anymore. Their favorite film is Call Me By Your Name. Call Me By Your Name, more like Call Me By Your Gay. Tell me their interests so I can make it personal. George Orwell, more like George Snorwell. Ooh. I will say anything that is not against terms of service. Hey, your friend wanted me to let you know you're just bad. Everybody's been trying to tell you, and nobody's really found the words to say it. You're just bad. And you're probably a pedophile. I will roast the shit out of your grandma. I can't even give them the finger. That's bad. Guarantee them that this Christmas, the turkey will not be the only roast.